Am I the a-hole for disowning my adoptive son since he chose his people over us? I'm 44, my husband is male 40, been married for 20 years, together for 22, and our adoptive son is male 24. He's black, and we're not. I'm only mentioning this because it's relevant to the story later. This does not take place in the US, and English is not my first language. Let me give a little bit of background to the situation. About 19 years ago, me and my husband had been driving on a highway, back from a small vacation, when along a particularly long stretch of road, absolutely no buildings around, only a ton of grass and hills as far as the eye could see, we spotted a little boy just sitting by the side of the road. Like I mentioned, there was nothing around for miles, and no cars close to where the boy was, so we decided to stop and see if everything was okay. When we got closer to the boy, let's call him Jason, fake name, it was very easy to see he was dirty and malnourished, since the only thing he had on were some diapers. He was so small it didn't look like he could be older than 3, later found out he was actually 5. We asked him why he was alone, and he told us that mommy and daddy put him here and told him to wait. There was no cell signal in the area, so we did a sensible thing and brought him back to the town to the nearest police station. To make a long story short, CPS was called. We discovered his parents were some druggies that were on the run for a felony. The only other relative Jason had was his grandmother, who was very mentally ill and couldn't take care of him, and we felt bad. He went into foster care soon after, but we felt bad for the kid and kept in touch with his caseworker. I had, still do, an extremely well-paying job at a time and could easily afford a decent lifestyle for a small family. So after a few months of discussion between ourselves, the caseworker, and some bureaucracy, we formally adopted Jason. Now on to the situation. About 3 years ago, Jason's parents were released from prison on parole. They contacted him not long after in hopes of reconnecting. Prior to that, they'd sent him a few odd letters here or there, but nothing really substantial. At first, he was hesitant to talk to them, but ended up caving and meeting them for lunch one day. I'll admit that a part of me was a bit jealous and apprehensive of what could happen, but I could see that it really was something that my son wanted to do, so for his sake I swallowed those and supported him through it. It wasn't very long, about 3 months I think, that he started to pull away from us. At first, I chalked it up to him being excited to actually talk to his bio parents after so long, talk about what had been going on in his life, spend some time with them, etc. It started to bother me when he'd cancel plans with us last minute because mom had an emergency or dad really needs me to help with him something today, or whatever other excuse he could come up with. He used to come over to our house at least once a week, call every day or so, but now we were lucky if he even came by that month. Again, I thought that was just temporary, that he was just excited, and soon enough he'd start spending some time with us again. We were overjoyed when he invited us over to dinner one night. It was supposed to be a family gathering, us and his bio parents and his wife, girlfriend at a time. I wasn't exactly keen on meeting the people that had left my son for dead on the side of the road, but decided to give them the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe they'd atoned and changed. Besides, he's our son, and we love him. We had to at least try. To say the dinner was a disaster is an understatement. His bio mom was extremely rude to me and my husband the entire night, making passive-aggressive, bigoted, and racist remarks every chance she got. His father was much the same. It all came to a head when she straight-up called us some slurs and threw a glass at my husband. A screaming match followed and we left soon after. The next day, Jason apologized profusely and promised they'd never do something like that again. I told him neither me nor my husband wanted to have anything to do with him and would appreciate if he understood that. He seemed to, but continued to pull away the next few months. And that leads to what happened last week. Jason proposed to his girlfriend about 9 months back and has been preparing for the wedding since. Of course, we were overjoyed for him, but a few months went by and no invitation came. Every time we asked, Jason would say they hadn't been sent out yet and changed the subject. Well, last week my husband saw a Twitter post from one of Jason's friends, his groomsmen, that went a few weeks back with the invitation in hand. We confronted Jason about it the next time he came over, only for him to drop the bomb on us that we hadn't been invited. We asked why, and he said his parents didn't want us there and wouldn't come if we did. I was freaking furious. I asked him how could he choose those pieces of trash over us, why they were so important. What did we do to deserve this kind of treatment? His answer? They understand me better. They're my people. At this point, my husband was crying, asking how could he do this. I've only ever been truly angry a few times in life, and this moment managed to top all of them. I threw him out right then and there and told him to never come back, that he wasn't our son anymore. I spent the rest of the day hugging my husband and trying to calm him down. The next day, I canceled everything we'd paid for the wedding, which was basically everything important, even the ones we couldn't get a refund on. Of course, Jason had a gall to call and scream at me, asking how I could do that to him. Where would he find replacements for a wedding that was supposed to happen only a few months from now? I told him I didn't care, and said, maybe you should ask those two leeches you call parents for some help. 19 freaking years of my life spent raising and loving a kid that I considered my own son, only to be treated like garbage. Giving blood, sweat, tears, so he could have a good life. All the love we could possibly give. And that's what we get as a reward? As for why I'm asking if I'm the a-hole, some people have been calling and messaging us, mostly Jason's friends and a few of our family members, calling us heartless and monsters for doing what we did to him. And that's honestly got me questioning if I went a bit too far in anger. After all, parents are supposed to love unconditionally, right? But if so, how do we ever get over something like this? How can we deal with this feeling of betrayal? Are we justified in feeling like that? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Info. Did Jason receive therapy growing up? Did you have family therapy? When the bio parents returned, were you open with Jason about your feelings? Raising him, did you expose him to a black community and discuss the complexities of race? Yes, he did receive therapy. As for exposing him to the black community, I know this is different in the US, but over here we don't really have a black culture. The whole country is pretty diverse, even more so in the city we live in, so he did get a lot of exposure to other black people. At least a third of his classmates were black. He did get very into US black culture when the internet started becoming more accessible here, and we did encourage him a lot. He did face some racism growing up, and we of course helped him through it. Forget everything else. Why would you pay for a wedding you aren't even invited to? I wonder if all the people calling and messaging them to tell them they're heartless know they're not even invited to the wedding. Not only this, but Jason made it seem like they were invited because he knew it was messed up. He kept saying that invites weren't out yet and stringing them along. He only admitted it when they saw the pictures of someone with an invite from months before. He was perfectly happy to let them pay and keep them in the dark as long as possible. At this point, he wants the love and family of his bio parents, but the money and support from the people that took him in and raised him. He might not 100% realize what he's doing, but that's what's happening. Not the a-hole. Did he seriously expect you to pay for a wedding you weren't even invited to? The damn audacity of it has my blood boiling. Learning it from his new parents. His learning leeching from some of the best. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying I wouldn't allow my brother and his kids live with me when I buy my house? Hi, so I've been saving to put a down payment down on a house in Brooklyn. It's been hard saving and skipping night outs, etc., but I've always wanted to have something in my name so that later in life it will pay off. I never usually tell my family about me making big decisions because in some way they always try to spin it to try to benefit them. I told my mom that I'm excited about a house I saw. It's in Brooklyn, but in the suburb of Brooklyn. The house needs some work. New driveway, paint. I definitely would redo the kitchen. I've always been handy, and I could do most of this stuff myself or figure it out. I've fixed/worked on my car by watching videos on YouTube, so I would probably do the same with the house. But I wouldn't mess with the plumbing or electrical work. It is a decent-sized house, has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and has a decent-sized yard. I told my mom about it, and she told my older brother. It's him, his wife, and 3 kids. They live about an hour and a half north, but he also works in the city like me. He called me and told me how our mother told him about the house. He does work as an electrician and said he could help if I needed. I thought, oh wow, that's great. He has his own house up north as well. I've been approved for the loan and waiting on paperwork, etc. He just called me today and asked me when is he and the kids are moving in because he has to ask off work to move things. I was so confused because I thought he was just messing with me. So I said, wait, what are you saying? He said that he offered to do electrical work in the house so he and his kids should be able to live there. I explained to him in what world does he believe doing electrical work equates to him living in a house that is mine. He started to go on about how having multiple kids is expensive and commuting every day for work is costly. I simply said that is not my problem. You are an adult. I hung up on him. My mom called me screaming, saying, why am I promising to let my brother stay in the house and now changing my mind? I never promised anything to him, and it's annoying that he is trying to manipulate the situation. I told my mom that he offered to do electrical work and now he's saying he is moving in. I told her he is not moving in and I'll hire someone else to do the work. She started to tell me they're close to losing their house and need help, and that I should because we are family. I asked her, why is it that the people who are telling someone else to help always the ones not offering help? My mom telling me to help, but she's not offering for them to stay with her. I said it's not going to happen. Majority of my family have been calling me and saying I am disgraceful. It's so annoying because I don't want my brother on the street with his family. But what if I never got the house? They would have still been in the same predicament. I refuse to help. It makes me not even want to buy the house. Not a-hole. Their housing is not your problem. And them being about to lose their home means they don't have the means to pay you. So you'd be housing freelancers who would be establishing residence rights. Everyone who calls can offer accommodation or shut up. Exactly. They're yelling at me for not helping, but they themselves haven't offered anything. Call up brother and say you talked to mom and she would be happy to take them in. Your family sucks. Your mom is likely to blame. Boundaries are your friend, not the a-hole. Yeah, there's no such thing as that in my family. That's why I usually do everything secretly. They don't even know what I do for work. Don't even give them the address at this point. I smell boundary stompers. Not a-hole. They're just trying to use and abuse you. Don't let them move in and don't even let them come in at this point if they show up there. I never usually tell my family about me making big decisions because in some way they always try to spin it to try to benefit them. I told my mom, dude, all the people phoning to berate you can either open their homes to your brother and his family or all chip in to pay his rent. And put them all on a strict information diet. Block the flying monkeys and go low contact with your mom and brother for a while. Why are you knowingly giving them so much power over you? I think even when we know we have quite toxic families and are best off being low contact, when big life events happen, there's still this desire to share it with our moms and somehow magically hope we will get a nice response. Unfortunately, we always get disappointed. OP is aware. I feel sad for you, OP. Your family sucks. But you sound clever and resourceful. Congratulations on a house and don't give family the address. Last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my aunt to not bring her kids when she comes to see us? My 16 male brother Danny, 17 male, currently is in at-home hospice care. He has metastasized bone cancer and he's conscious but in bad shape and understandably pretty upset with the way things has gone down. The doctors are saying 3 to 5 weeks. Our parents chose not to tell him, and he blew up at them, and there was a crap ton of screaming and crying. He's living in the living room since the stairs are a no-go, and life as we know it is finally approaching its bitter end. We've reached a part where family is starting to come and say goodbye, and my aunt is due to come with her family next week. Danny wants there to be no kids because they're stressful. He doesn't have the patience he used to have, and he gets really angry. And it's really not an environment where kids should be playing. It's not just small children. It's me too at times, but Dan apologizes and we go back to being bros. Anyway, my aunt has 3 boys under the age of 10 and she plans on bringing them all. We're not close with these kids. We don't like them. And our mom told the both of us that we have to make an effort for her sister. Our 7-year-old niece, who we are close to, was here last week, and she messed up by standing on his IV line, and he exploded at her and screamed, "You're messing up everything, you stupid bee," because his brain isn't working like how it used to. I basically said screw it and called my aunt, explained that Danny can't handle her kids, and asked that she not bring them. She blew up at me, and told me that I didn't have the right to tell her who can and cannot set foot in her sister's house, and she's not coming at all now. This has obviously caused a huge amount of stress in the family, and my mom had crying breakdown this morning at me, called me an a-hole and a bastard, and threw a salt shaker at me. But she's living in her own world and not doing anything, so I told her that back. Danny's out of it. My mom says I'm the a-hole and my dad is constantly working since he can't face the music. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. You're a good sibling. And if your parents are too caught up in their grief, at least Danny has you there to help share his needs and wants with others. Sending you and your family my very best during this unbelievably difficult time. I am so proud of Opie for voicing his brother's needs to their aunt. An absolutely courageous stand to make as a teen in such an awful situation. I hope all the love in the replies here bolsters his spirits. He's doing so well. Not a-hole. This time should be about making your brother as comfortable as possible. Yes, the family wants to visit and say goodbye, but his well-being and mental state are what matters most. As a mother, I cannot comprehend putting someone else's wishes and wants in front of my dying child's wishes and needs. This is an upsetting time for everyone, and bringing impressionable children around when they most likely will not understand the enormity of the situation and behave accordingly is crazy. Yes, your mother needs support from her sister, but your aunt should, as an adult, realize the kids will cause unnecessary chaos. I deeply feel for you and your family and wish you all as much love and peace as possible in this devastating time. Thank you. I hope your kids are always well. The priorities here are your brother, you, your parents, then other people. It sucks that you have to be the adult, but as I don't have to tell you, everything sucks. If kids tire brother out, then no kids. They can make drawings. Tell them they can yell at you in a year when you've all had time to grieve. Okay, now do you have anyone, older, trustworthy, that you can bring in like today? Friends, parents, other cousins, uncles, anyone? I hear you giving Dad a pass, but no, he's not allowed to escape and work when something of this magnitude is being parked on a 16-year-old kid. Mom seems like she truly is out for now, so Dad has to help find another adult to run logistics, interference, and support. It's awful, but you're not alone. The YMCA often has bereavement gatherings, or the hospital, or the hospice. There's a whole known set of stresses unique to being the healthy sibling, and feeling guilty, and deserving of care, because your brother's needs are so great and time-limited. But you are a son, a brother, a child, losing someone important, and you matter too. This is all too much for the adults. It's way, way, way too much for a 16-year-old. You need support, and someone you can put between you and a whole aunt. I hope for a peaceful, loving, pain-free passing for your brother and people who can envelop you and your parents, so you can be given the care and space you need.